Welcome to Reignite, a podcast about two friends who got wrecked by a video game. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And here we are starting Season 2. Let's recap. When we start Mass Effect 2, everything seems normal. We're patrolling up and down the terminus. Terminus?
Terminus system, I believe.
Yeah. We're strolling up and down looking for pockets of Geth to clear out, because still, nobody really cares about the Reaper threat. We get attacked by a ship we've never seen before. And then, against all odds, our beloved precious Normandy blows up.
And in the process, while Shepard is rescuing Joker, who refuses to abandon ship, he gets Joker into an escape pod. He or she gets Joker into an escape pod at the nick of time and then goes down with the ship and flies off into outer space and loses air pressure. Title screen.
Then, Shepard finds out they've been dead for 2 years. They've been rebuilt by a mysterious facility. They get woken up by a mysterious voice. They have to fight their way through a bunch of mechs. Then, finally, they meet another mysterious person named Jacob. Jacob finally gets Shepard through all the dangers. They meet another person named Wilson, find out that Wilson was a traitor, meet up with Miranda, who spoke to you in the first place, and then you find out everything has been funded by Cerberus. Who's Cerberus? Well, you had a couple of run-ins with them in Mass Effect 1. Now you have to go talk to the elusive man, who might be Elon Musk, if you ask me, and find out why you were rebuilt, why you were brought back to life, and what they want from you.
Yeah, there's a lot in the beginning of this game.
Yeah. So, that's a recap. Please bear with us. It's been a while since we've done that.
Yes.
So, the very first time you've seen this intro.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that felt like?
I do, because... So I got into Mass Effect 1, as we mentioned on the show, but in case you're just tuning in now, through a friend, a mutual friend of mine, who just introduced me to it, and then I got hooked on it. Mass Effect 2 was the first game in the series that I anticipated, went to a midnight release for, and got home and played immediately. And, yeah, I was incredibly upset when that first scene happens and concludes, because nothing is more heartbreaking than thinking a character you spent a ton of hours on that they said the effects of the previous game would matter dies in the beginning, in the first not even 10 minutes.
Yeah. I cannot remember if I already knew about it because of you or if I went in blind.
My memory is that you were up with me when I played it, but I don't know that that's the case.
It might be.
Because you hadn't played the first one, but I think you had watched me play parts of it and had sat with me playing it and then dove in because of the second one, I thought.
Maybe. That might be what happened. I might have witnessed it with you.
Yeah.
So I have no clear memories of that. But I will tell a story about one of my friends who recently got into Mass Effect, and I told her absolutely nothing. So Amberly, my love, I'm sorry, but I'm going to embarrass you in front of everyone. So Amberly played Mass Effect, loved it, was really excited. I actually bought her Mass Effect 2 because I really wanted her to play it.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, just let me know when you're playing it. I want to, share this with you because it's something that we both love. So we're on voice chat while she's playing, and she's kind of talking along through it, and then everything goes down and she's just like, what the fuck? What? No MJ. And I'm just laughing on mute because I don't want her to hear exactly how entertained I am because she shares in my pain. So, yeah, it's a hell of a thing. If you know about it already and you're leading someone into it, it's very cathartic for someone else to suffer.
Yeah, schadenfreude, if you will. Yeah, I still say it's one of the best openings to a video game that I've ever played. And what's really interesting is playing through it again, doing a new playthrough for the podcast. That opening scene still gets me every time. Saving Joker in the nick of time, floating off into space, clutching your breather tube as the air escapes, and you just start entering the atmosphere of whatever nearby planet you're near. Like, it's so powerful. And then for that to happen, and then it cut to the title screen, is like a giant middle finger.
Yeah, they cut to the title screen like they did nothing wrong.
Right.
Like, fuck you.
And then, I mean, it's very quick after that you find, like, you start hearing murmurs and start to put the pieces together and know that you're being, finger quotes, rebuilt, which is also actually a really great plot device for why your skills might have changed. You know, your background can't change if you import a character, but you can change your class or your looks. And that makes sense. Like, rebuilding you maybe didn't go as planned and some wrong wires were crossed and now you do these other things.
Before we jump into the whole rebuilding,
I
have a couple of questions about your current playthrough.
Okay.
When you were getting suited up, who came to you to tell you that Joker refused to leave?
Oh, it's Caden.
Caden went to you?
Yeah.
It was Liara for me. Like, I didn't have Ashley.
Huh.
So I don't know why Liara came to me. I was why are you on my ship?
Maybe it's because it's the one that you progressed a relationship with the furthest?
Maybe. Though I was very surprised about it.
Yeah.
Because I was just
well, usually it's Caden or Ashley, I thought. But
yeah. So it's typically whoever you romanced. Because the concept is you would not have killed who you romanced.
That's true.
So it would have been whoever you romanced. But because neither of us romanced anyone, I thought it would default to the Alliance member.
Yeah.
But for me, it was Liara.
Like I said, it's maybe because even though you didn't sleep with her, you did get to that point before shutting her down. So maybe it's under the operation that maybe you got what you wanted, that the two of them did spend time together after that final mission, but they didn't progress. Or they did progress at a slower pace after you kind of put the brakes on.
Maybe.
I mean, it does seem like it's relationship based because Caden did come running to me. I also think it's very interesting that because you choose, on the meta side, you choose what your character looks like after that scene. They have you like steam blowing out of a steam pipe as you put a helmet on so no one can see your face. Like, because the voice is consistent, which I thought is clever. And I think I've noticed before, but I just think from a meta perspective, it's very, very clever way of doing that. You know, also you're in space, so you're going to need a helmet anyway. I'd say one of the most stunning scenes for me in video game history is when you're going to rescue Joker. So at this point, for those who haven't played quite yet, the ship is blown apart. Parts of it are sealed off with air fields that keep the oxygen in, and other parts are not. They're just open, exposed to space. And as you're walking across the ship to go save Joker, you walk through one of those fields into open space. The music cuts out. The sound cuts out. It's literally your breathing, and like that's it while you're moving through space.
Yeah, and you can look up and see like a moon above you, and it's actually really stunning.
It's one of the most breathtaking moments, and as you're walking, all you hear is your breathing, and then you get to the the ensign rows where all the seats are lined up, and the seats are floating. If you walk into them, you can't do any action attacks, but if you walk into them, they start to float off into space. It's just, in all the games I've ever played that have to do with space or take place in space, it's the first time I recall ever seeing a scene that puts you in what it would feel like to be in open space, because that, you know, there is no sound in space. It's a vacuum. And it was just really interesting and really breathtaking. For such a horrible moment, it was such a beautiful moment within it, which I think is really interesting. And then, of course, you pass through the next field, Joker's freaking out, and nonsense ensues as he refuses to abandon his baby.
Yeah. And I love when you finally get him up and, like, you yank him out of the
He's
chair.
like, ow, my
watch
arm.
the arm.
Yeah. Like, you're breaking
Shut
my
up,
bones.
you're going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop whining.
It like we talked in the first game about how they develop Joker's character, and for the most part it's a lot of snark, and you, like, besides the early moments where you interact about his background and he gets really animated and you get to see the kind of person he is, it isn't until this opening cutscene that you get way more development than you ever got in the first game, because the way he reacts to all of the ensigns and and Navigator Priestley, R.I.P., first casualty of the second game, like, he's really impassioned, and, like, I still remember that moment where the unnamed ensign says, oh no, or maybe it's him says, I've never seen it's impossible, a Geth ship can't see us, and he goes, that's not a Geth ship, and just starts freaking out, because Joker's a really good pilot. Like, it's just, there's a lot of high emotion that were in pockets of the first game, but you can tell from the moment this game starts that it's going to be even more story-driven, even more emotional writing, and like, I started getting anxiety just thinking about the things you have to go through in the late game, because I remember it.
Yeah.
And, like, knowing what this is going to lead to, and that, spoiler alert, it's not a spoiler, a lot of people can die in this game. And,
Yeah.
like, there can be a lot of loss depending on how you play the game, which is really interesting since the first game had some of that, but not as much.
Yeah. Since we have already played, we can discuss it a little bit. The stakes are much higher in this game.
Yep.
Like, you are going to be sent on a suicide mission, and no one is expecting to come back alive.
Yep.
You recruit people telling them, like, you might die.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee that you'll come back. And a lot of people go for it because they have nothing left to live for.
Right. And or they believe in putting humanity, who are being targeted at this point, beyond anything else that they believe in.
Right.
And as you do missions throughout the game, you learn why they're doing that, because this game introduces, essentially companion missions, these missions that focus on the individual stories of all the people you recruit. Because this is the largest team you get in the game's history.
Yeah. Because
it's a larger team than the third game, though the third game is still larger than the first game. The first game is the smallest squad that you can get. It's another reason why I wish you could have more than two squad mates with you.
Yeah.
Just because I'd like to interact with more characters.
Yeah. We've talked about how, 4 seems like it would have been optimal, right?
Right, yeah. Like you and 3
yet.
others. And yet.
And yet.
Sort of a side note that has nothing to do with Mass Effect. It was very exciting when I played Kingdom Hearts 3, and, your party almost had no limits. Like, when you were in the Toy Story world, you had Buzz and Woody, not just one partner with Donald and Goofy. So you had a team of 4 or 5 people running around with you, depending on the world you were in, which was like, oh yeah, it's PS4, they can do that. So maybe in the next Mass Effect that we get. In Andromeda, could you only have 2 squad mates?
Yeah, they stuck with that.
Huh. That's just surprising to me.
I think by that point, it's like a convention.
Yeah, I guess so.
So.
But yeah, the opening moments of this game are still some of the most memorable moments in gaming history for me, and it's why I think most Mass Effect players get so tied to it. Because while we've discussed the first game is good with flaws, the second game is excellent with very few flaws, and the storytelling, of course, is some of the best storytelling in the series.
Yeah. After our Shepard meets their demise, which was an incredibly intense moment because it was one of the first times that we see Shepard showing an emotion that is not like stoicism.
Uh-huh.
It was panic and anxiety. It's the first time we ever see our Shepard experience that because they're going to die.
Yeah.
And they know it, and
they also know they're alone at that point.
Yeah.
Like, what's interesting is even up until the moment where you're about to get blown away and you're getting Joker in the escape pod, it's only stoicism. Like, you're moving fluidly, like, with purpose. But when you hit the button and then float off into space, also that's the second time that there's pure silence, and all you hear is breathing.
Yeah.
Then you hear the tube burst and the air escape, and you hear the breathing increase, and then you watch Shepard start to flail and freak out. And yeah, it is very disheartening because you never get to really see Shepard like that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that we get to see that because it sets up we can possibly see other sides of Shepard.
Right. And you get more of Shepard in the second and third game as far as a range of emotions than you did in the first.
So now we have these new load screens. So no more elevator waiting.
Yeah, there are actual digital maps created to represent the loading screens. In the first part of the game, it's like looks like monitors on the Normandy. That's the ship. The monitors on the Normandy, and then after that, right before you start to pick your character stuff, it looks like operating stats. Like it shows your heart and your head and some other stuff.
Yeah. So during this section, did you make any changes to your character at all?
No. After the fact, I wish I had made some visual changes, like added a beard or something. But I remember there aren't that many great facial hair options in these games for whatever reason. Maybe too much rendering power to create a manly beard. Who knows? Or non-manly beard? Anyway. But no, I didn't make any changes. I stayed a Vanguard because it's the second game where I truly love the Vanguard class. And we'll get into that when we get to the next part when we talk about the combat. I'd thought about changing just because the second game is the first time all of the classes are really great.
Yeah.
In the first game, the classes aren't bad, but they're a little scattered. Like, they don't really have a focus, whereas in the second and third games, you get one move that only that class gets that's the focus of the class, and then other moves to go with it, whether it's biotics, engineering, or other things.
Yeah, I stayed a Sentinel. I thought about switching over to Vanguard because we get the biotic charge move, and I love it.
My favorite move in the game.
But I decided to stay because in Sentinel, for Mass Effect 2, we get power armor.
Right.
And I really like power armor. I was dumb, and I took Barrier in addition because I forgot about power armor. I was like, oh, wait, I don't need this. Yeah. So when I get an opportunity, I may get rid of that and take something else instead. The only change I made was visual. I made my hair longer because my rationale is after 2 years, my hair would be longer because my hair grows very wildly, very quickly. So, and yes, Ian, I know that they probably still have scissors in the future. However, I do not think that keeping Shepard's hair neat and tidy is a priority.
I mean, I imagine there would be some hygiene stuff because if you're laying there for 2 years, they have to wash you, they have to clean you up. But that said, like, I would have liked to change my Shepard's hairstyle or like I said, his facial hair instead of the manly always stubble that he has, which like we'll talk about that later. But how is it that I played? Another reason why I don't think I know how long Mass Effect 1 takes is because I always have stubble. Am I just always shaving between cutscenes? Like, how does that work? But
your beard magically stays the same length all the time.
God, I wish that was a real thing. I would never have to go to a barber again. But yeah, so I didn't make any visual changes because I also couldn't remember if you could with the imported character. Clearly you can.
Yeah, kind of. So I could not alter the custom that I imported.
Right.
I had to create a new custom. So like I had to like go back and forth to look and be like, is this right?
Okay.
Is this right?
Then yeah. Then I'm glad I did what I did because I couldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
But yeah, but beyond that, yeah, I didn't change anything. I also took a screenshot, which you guys will get to see if you're following our Instagram at ReignitePod, of my background. So I'll remember that I'm a spacer war hero because I could never remember when we were talking about the first game.
Yes, you are a spacer war hero. I was a colonist lone survivor.
Yep. But yeah.
Soul survivor?
It's interesting the way the interface looks when you're creating your character in the second game because it's very much designed, and what you'll find out is the Cerberus facility kind of interface, which is really interesting. And then after making our choices, the game progresses to us sort of waking up for the first time and freaking the hell out because the last thing we remembered was dying in space.
I really wish I could have told Miranda to shut the fuck up for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Because she's being very pushy and very, like, annoying, and I understand that the facility is under attack, but I just woke up and was dead.
Yeah. But, I mean, the first time you wake up when Wilson and her put you back under, like, I wish you could have said something then, but I also realized that we probably are intubated or have some kind of breathing tube, so we can't actually talk. And we're just freaking out with tubes shoved in our body. Also, I've mentioned this voice actor many a time on many shows that I do across the internet, but Stephen Bloom makes his Mass Effect debut. He will be back later in the game as a different character, our favorite lizard son. More about that later. But he plays Wilson. For those who don't know who Stephen Bloom is, he's a renowned voice actor.
Is that who plays Wilson?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's Stephen Bloom. Stephen Bloom's voice is there. And so he's a renowned voice actor. Most people know him as Spike Spiegel from the American version of Cowboy Bebop. The American dubbed. Still a Japanese show.
I have to say, when you like run into Wilson while you're running with Jacob, he's so suspicious right off the bat.
Immediately. I mean, that also you can attribute that to Stephen Bloom's performance because he's good at playing a devious character.
But
yeah.
He has this moment with Jacob where he's explaining what he's been doing, and Jacob's like, okay.
Who cares?
I didn't ask you.
Yeah.
Why do you even have the ability to do that? And he's like, I got shot. How do you explain that? Like, you're dumb, apparently? I don't know.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. This game doesn't hold back on emotional and really powerful moments too. Like when you first run into Jacob, you're under fire, and like the conversation is created in a way, not that there wasn't this in the first game, but a lot of the first game's dialogue was people standing, chatting, and then one person turns to the left and walks away. In this, there are a lot more under fire conversations that are different perspectives, so it feels more realistic.
It is a little more dynamic.
And so the cliche that I brought up still happens, especially on the Citadel, but it happens less because there are more of those kinds of conversations.
Yeah. Let's see. So we wake up. Miranda is pushing us along the way. We have some changes that we we have some changes that we experience.
Yep.
We now do thermal clips instead of our weapons overheating.
Correct.
And the armor looks a little bit different.
Yes. Now your armor is piece by piece. You pick it, and you can just find armor pieces. You don't fully customize your armor. Each piece of armor, shoulders, body, head, legs, and gloves, I believe, all can do different things, or you can have armor sets. If you bought the collector's edition, or you owned what's their other game, Dragon Age, like you get a bunch of different full sets of armors that aren't that great, but like look really cool.
I love the Dragon Age armor. It is real cool.
I mean, it looks like a suit of armor, but the abilities, it's really specific. So because now each piece of armor has stat boosts that either lower cooldowns or boost biotics or boost, tech or boost weapons and kinetics. And so you can play mix and match, but the full armor sets are powerful early game, but by later game, customization gets you a lot farther than the full armor sets. But yeah, essentially the Blood Dragon armor looks like you're wearing medieval armor in space.
Yes, I love it. So how do you feel about the thermal clips?
I think it's better. I think it makes more sense. I didn't like the guns overheating, although what I had forgotten is you can customize it to a point where your guns don't overheat if you reduce the thermal on it, but you sacrifice a lot of other things to do that. Also, this game, as you're running through, you pick up a heavy weapon, and that's a big change also, is each class gets 3 weapons and a heavy weapon. The heavy weapon is universal. Every class gets a heavy weapon slot, and you can switch weapons that go in that slot. But otherwise, the 3 other weapons vary depending on the class. Like for me, I got shotgun, pistol, and I believe submachine gun for my 3 weapon slots. And but everyone starts with pistol. I think everyone gets pistol to start, and it's your 2 other weapons that can vary. Because my character is based on getting very close in, I get the shotgun as one of my main weapons to use, which is another reason I really like the Vanguard class. Moving forward through the game, though, we're getting more orders. We're giving the basics of how to get behind cover, how to use our abilities.
It's the tutorial.
Essentially, yeah. And the abilities are designed in a different way now, at least on the PC, because I'm playing on the PC. The controls changed, whereas now spacebar is to interact with stuff and to storm or run, and shift is to pull up the team menu to choose abilities, which was not the case in the previous game. The spacebar was. So that took some getting used to. But after I figured that out, it was actually pretty easy to use all of my abilities.
Yeah. I used the tech armor pretty immediately. I've been using Overload a lot more, especially since we were fighting mechs. Let's see what else. So while we're going through the facility, we have a lot of opportunities to learn about what has been happening while we were out of commission, so to speak.
Right.
We learn about the Lazarus Project, which was the project headed by Miranda Lawson to bring Shepard back to life. 4 billion credits have been sunk into the project. Wilson answered to Miranda, and he was her second in command, so to speak. And we learned things like Miranda's goal was to bring Shepard back exactly as they were.
Right.
But here's my question. Can Shepard really be exactly as they were?
I mean, yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, physically, they did recover your body. Your body was intact, which, how the hell that happened? Who the hell knows?
Well, intact.
But yeah, the idea is that they were able to resuscitate you and make sure you were the same as you were. But how do we know they didn't make changes to you? I mean, you can choose to make those changes at the start of the game when you're, finger quotes, creating your character. Mm-hmm. So who knows? I mean, that's an argument that will come up throughout this whole game, is when people interact with you who have not seen you in 2 years, they ask that exact question. How do I know you are who you are? You're working with, we find out very early on in this beginning part of the game, you're working with Cerberus. Cerberus is funding this, which in the first game was framed as a terrorist group that was put humans first. Whereas your short conversations with Jacob and Miranda and even the Elusive Man tell you that's not quite true. And there's more to it than that. But it does seem strange that the Shepard you controlled now is working with a terrorist group?
Yeah. My point is more that trauma changes us.
Well, that's true too.
And like the trauma of dying, of nearly dying even, affects a change in us. So has Miranda really succeeded? Because can she erase that trauma?
Well, yeah, I think when Miranda says that, she mostly cares about the physical ability, the ability to do the work, and then just the knowledge, the previous knowledge.
I disagree. I think it also matters about morals, because they didn't want to have a shepherd that would just align themselves with Cerberus's morals immediately. They wanted a shepherd that was who they were, because they were a symbol, they were a leader.
Right.
So they want that same person with that same personality.
Yeah, I still don't think Miranda is taking into account trauma. Like, she could care less about the trauma as long as that other stuff is there, because it'll still take charge even if there's traumatic trauma behind it all. She's confident that if the rest of the stuff is returned, if there's additional trauma, it'll just be incorporated, but Shepard will still be Shepard. Yeah. That's my thought. I mean, we do get to see throughout this second game more of the underlying trauma than we ever saw in the first game. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of the things that we complained about characters not reacting to certain things, there's less of that in this game. There's more acknowledgement that Shepard's been through the shit at this point.
Yeah, I think this game is set up to have more personality overall.
Yeah.
So
I think it's really interesting, too, as we see Miranda's face first pretty early on, and Wilson. I believe she is the only character in the game that is modeled after the actress who played her. Yvonne Stravinsky is how I'm going to pronounce the last name. She was the lead in the TV show Chuck, and then she's also
so pretty.
She's very pretty. She's been in a bunch of other stuff as well, but that was like her first big role. The character of Miranda facially is designed to look like her, and they've done that with other characters throughout the series. But I just think that's really interesting because, like the other human characters, like Anderson and Jacob, none of Caden, none of them look like the actors playing them, which I thought was very interesting. And also kind of a bit of a mind fuck when you're playing the game and familiar with the actress, because you're like, wait a minute, I know you.
So when we finally escaped the facility and find out that Wilson was a traitor and he tried to have Miranda killed and there's no one left, and even if there was, no one matters except for Shepard, which, geez, calm down.
Yeah.
We get this opportunity to meet the elusive man. And I don't know about you, but I took a second to, like, look at my armors and my aesthetic.
I did, too.
The outfits are fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Your outfit choices are awful.
For casual?
Yeah.
See, for the male character, they're not, because the colonist costume for male Shepard actually looks like a decent outfit. It's a vest with a brown shirt and then cargo pants, whereas, the woman's version of it, finger quotes, is much worse. It looks terrible.
It's awful. It's ugly AF, and I'm like, I don't want to wear any of these clothes. Can I please have my Alliance uniform back? Because at least that's blue.
Yeah. Yeah, even the Cerberus uniform, like the Under Armour essentially doesn't look great. Yeah. However, you do get to customize your regular armor as well, which I went to town on, and you'll see in the screenshots, but I pretty much min-maxed for low power cooldowns or more powerful biotics, because that's what I'm designing the character for. I will say, before we talk into a little more story, running through the base and getting to take your abilities for a test drive, I forgot how visceral the biotic charge was. So the first time I use it, and I charge into a tiny, skinny little mech, and it goes flying into pieces everywhere. It's so satisfying. Or sometimes if they don't fly into pieces, but they fall back, and then I just open up a pistol blast on them. It's so satisfying. For those who haven't done a Vanguard, the biotic charge is essentially like a charge in any other kind of role-playing game, except it's your biotics propelling you. So imagine how the bodies get propelled when you use biotics on them, except you're doing that to yourself. It's almost like going through a mini wormhole, because everything blurs around you for a split second as you charge like 10 feet. It's really awesome. And when you hit a Krogan with that and then blast them with a shotgun afterwards, like you get to later in the game, it's really satisfying. So I just wanted to mention that, because I love doing that, to the point where I've gotten myself killed many a time in situations that I absolutely should not have charged in, but it's like, ooh, I can use my charge.
That storm rushes in.
Yeah, pretty much my whole life story when it comes to Mass Effect. But yeah, the Biotic Charge is a lot of fun, and why I can't help but pick the Vanguard for this playthrough, because it is my favorite of all the classes. And I have played the game enough that I've played all the other classes, and there are things I like about the other classes, but Vanguard will always be my number one.
I want to talk about the Elusive Man.
Sure.
First of all, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Second of all, fuck this guy.
Third of all, Martin Sheen, love that guy. He does a great job playing a douchebag.
Yeah. So what I find very interesting is every scene with the Elusive Man sets him as very like front and center, and we're actually in the room with him as he's talking to the holograph of Shepard.
Right.
Rather than in the room with Shepard, our character, as they talk to the Elusive Man.
Right.
Which I find to be very interesting.
Yeah.
That was just
I think part of that is like if we did it the other way, they would have to digitally recreate his whole area. Whereas if they do it that way, they only have to digitally recreate Shepard.
I mean,
as far as display.
Except, okay, if it works kind of the same way, both ways,
yeah,
Shepard would not have to see like the entire room,
right?
Just the Elusive Man, because the Elusive Man doesn't see Shepard's entire room, just Shepard.
Well, yeah, but I think that's because a cone of energy not a cone, like a tube of energy comes around Shepard. There's nothing around the Elusive Man, and so I think that's why the perspective that way is, because literally the machine Shepard's in is just showing him the Elusive Man maybe in this weird like 3D display. And it was just easier to create the Elusive Man's room for that conversation and those conversations in the future.
I just think it's interesting that the Elusive Man is often like very much a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
Two things that he said that made me real mad.
Uh-huh.
While you've been sleeping, I wasn't sleeping, I was dead.
Yeah.
Like, so we got an email from one of our friends, Ursula, who cheated on us and played Mass Effect 2 ahead of us.
Yeah.
For shame. But she sent us this email that goes into great depth about how the Elusive Man is an abuser.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Of course he is.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's essentially almost a dictator.
Like, he uses such gaslighting language.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just, like I said.
He's manipulative.
While you've been sleeping. That's designed to make Shepard feel bad for dying.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you make someone feel bad for something they can't control?
Yep.
It's not Shepard's fault that they died.
Yep.
And now you're telling Shepard about something horrible that's happening to people that they would want to protect and how they haven't been around to protect them. Like, I hate this guy.
You're supposed to.
The second thing he says is, you have a choice.
Yeah. No, I don't. What choice?
Exactly. Like, no, I really don't have a choice, because you brought me back to life, and, like, now I'm indebted to you, which is weird and gross.
Right. Well, and also, like, he says you have a choice because he knows Shepard doesn't, because Shepard's the kind of person that honors any kind of relationship like this.
Yeah.
And going out of your way to bring him back to life is a different story. I think also as the game goes on, he finds the good in the relationships around the Elusive Man to justify it.
Yeah.
And you get to make choices later on that help that. But yeah, in this early part of the game, like, and also, again, I usually play as FemShep. The language is way more toxic when it's this powerful man talking to a woman than it is from this powerful man talking to a man. Like, you notice it's more easily noticeable some of the terrible shit he's doing when it's man to woman versus, man to man, even though it's demeaning in any way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also really interesting. And so seeing it from a male Shepard perspective, which I don't do often, is interesting as well.
I hate him.
You're supposed to.
I know. I want it out there that I hate him.
And
you talk about how much you hate the Mako, I talk about how much I hate the Elusive Man.
Fair enough. Also, what's really interesting is the bits of conversations you get to have leading up to this with Miranda and Jacob. Like, you get very much a strong sense of Miranda believes in the Elusive Man and willingly works for him.
Well, how can she not? I mean, he took her from an abusive home and told her that there was value in her abilities. Like,
we don't know that yet. At this point, all we know is that she works for him without question and believes in his cause. Whereas Jacob, from the minute you meet him, you find a kindred spirit in Jacob, because he's he's a soldier. He's reluctant. He realizes he's a weapon and a trigger to be pulled.
Yeah.
And while he's not always happy about what he's doing, he does believe in the overall goal, even if the small tasks don't always seem to line up with his morals. And you get to talk to him later, and you can actually tell him whether you like him or not at that point, which is really interesting because Miranda doesn't even give you that opportunity because she's just focused on getting the mission done and doesn't really like you at that point.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't trust you the same way you don't trust her.
Yeah.
Whereas Jacob, because he's a soldier like you, immediately trusts you and even gives you information that Miranda mocks him for later, saying that his conscience got the better of him immediately.
Yeah. Well, Jacob used to be Alliance, so that's where you get your bond from.
Right.
Whereas Miranda is like the elusive man's second in command.
Right. And we, at this point, only know that they have a close bond, but we don't know why.
Yeah. But to cut towards some meta information.
Yeah.
Of course, they have a close bond, and she views him as a replacement father figure.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is this, I get a lot of parallels to cut into another universe for a sec, the Gamora-Thanos relationship.
Yeah.
This relationship of, because Gamora was the same way for a long time, believed in Thanos' cause because she didn't know any better. And then when she was given an opportunity to see another light, she shifted easily because she realized that her parental figure was wrong. And I see a lot of that in the play between Miranda and the Elusive Man. And those comics that refer to that stuff have existed a lot longer than Mass Effect has. So I'm curious. Like, it's just a parallel I never really noticed before.
I mean, Ursula called this Mass Effect 2 the Daddy Issues edition.
Yeah. Well, that's
not wrong.
No, definitely not wrong.
Very much not wrong.
Right. And the daddy issues aren't just with those two characters either.
It's everybody.
And we'll get into more of that later. But yeah, and so then at this point, after you talk to the Elusive Man, he tells you about a colony that has recently been attacked because a ton of human colonies have been being targeted, and the Elusive Man believes it's the Reapers getting back at Shepard, who was a human, a human.
Hundreds of thousands of humans have disappeared, and because their colonies are like towards the terminus systems, no one has really stepped in to do anything because the Alliance can't go into the terminus systems because of an agreement.
Right, and then the alien races don't believe it's a priority still, even though Shepard saved the galaxy.
Yeah.
Because at this point, and you'll get more of this as you actually talk to the Council, they don't believe that there are more Reapers. They believe that this was an anomaly. There was one Reaper who was still around that tried to attack them.
And I can't super blame them for sending Shepard after Geth because
that was the bad guy, essentially.
Right. And like only a handful of people saw Sovereign.
Right. Only a handful of people saw Sovereign, and also only Shepard saw other races besides the Geth working with Sovereign and Saren. Like, there were some Krogans, but again, we found out in the first game that he was raising Krogan.
Right.
Like, but most people didn't see that. Most people, when they invaded the Citadel, it was Geth that invaded the Citadel.
Right. So, like, Geth were the things that people saw, so it makes sense to be like, well, you have to kind of, like, help people feel safe and comfortable by getting rid of the Geth that are still acting as threats. So I understand that it's not ideal. They could have had someone else do the Geth sweep while Shepard focused on the Reaper threat.
But they don't believe that there's a Reaper threat, so they sent out Shepard.
They don't want to give credence to it.
Right. Well, and also part of it is, like, it's not a huge leap to go from intelligent robots Geth to giant intelligent robot Sovereign. Like, the connection there makes sense. If you don't know anything about any of these creatures, these are tiny robots helping a giant robot. Like, at the most base level. And so, you know, we, as at this point in the game, don't believe that the Geth can think on their own and or have compassion or feelings.
I'm just laughing forever about Tiny Geth.
Tiny Geth.
Tiny Geth.
There are Tiny Geth. They're called Leapers, and they suck. Or whatever they are. The things that jump around. Stalkers. Yeah. Leapers, Stalkers, who cares? So at this point, it's a lot of questions. You don't know where your team is at this point, if you'll ever even see them again at this point. For all you know at this point of the game, this is your new team of these three people, and that you may never see your partners again. Yeah. Which, especially if you've pursued any kind of relationship